Parsha. Today we are starting the Parsha named Vayechi. It's hard to say Vayechi, and Vayechi means and he should live, but it's contradictory to the topic because we know that Jacob died at the age of 147, and Joseph died at the age of 110. So why do we name the Parsha Vayechi? It was a little bit, I don't have an answer for that. Maybe someone can help me with that. I really don't know why the first note, the first word is talking about life when the two most important men at that time passed. Okay.
Eyal, Chaye Sarah is the same.
Yeah.
Same
Correct.
well.
That's correct. Chaye Sarah when she passed. Yes. Anyhow, so I want to show you a short a PowerPoint. And my point about PowerPoint is that if you think about 2 or 3 aspects of the points I bring after the class, and you kind of grasp them and think, that's my goal. We're not going to discuss everything, but I'm just giving you ideas what you can do with the Parsha upon completion. So here's the PowerPoint. Really,
Eyal?
Yes.
Can I just say that you're questioning why they say and he shall live or he should live, but Chaye Sarah is all about her death. So
correct.
Interesting how the words are used.
Right. And it's
Their memory should live and not the physical body. So when you say somebody should live, I mean, our ancestors are, maybe it's not the physical body. I don't know.
But isn't it true, Eyal, that in ancient Hebrew, the construct that we would say would be atid, future, is the past. So it's simply, the past, and he lived. So
correct.
It's not conditional.
Correct. Yes. And in one verb, you have a full sentence, Vayechi, and he would live, a full sentence in one word. You guys know that, right? We spoke about it earlier before. Okay, I'm just trying to solve a couple of issues with the PowerPoint. It will be in a second.
You should have taken Eileen with you. Who's your young man who's with you?
She's there. If I she's there.
The young man's getting paid very well.
Eileen, while he's doing that, I want to welcome Arnold Sagner to the call.
And Vefri came back.
Nice. Eyal, thank you for doing this while you're in Israel. We appreciate it.
We need it with what's going on here. Really.
Heartbreaking.
Can you guys see the first slide? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a presentation mode?
Yeah. Is it on presentation? Yeah.
Yes.
So this is the Parsha today, and those are the pages if you guys need to open the book, okay? And if, okay, just one more second. Enter. Okay, Meryl, can you read the first, just what is this Parsha about?
Sure, thank you, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is the final Torah portion of the book of Genesis, Bereshit. It primarily focuses on the concluding moments of Yaakov's life and the transition of leadership to his sons, setting the stage for the future of the Israelites.
Great, next one.
The Parsha begins with Yaakov summoning his 12 sons to his bedside. He gives each son a blessing, which is often a mixture of personal evaluation, prophetic insight, and a foretelling of each tribe's future. Some of the blessings are positive and uplifting, while others are rebukes, reflecting the son's past actions.
Wonderful, thank you. Next one, the last one.
The Parsha concludes with Joseph's own death at the age of 110. Before his passing, he makes his brothers promise to take his bones with them when God brings the Israelites out of Egypt, symbolizing his faith in God's future promise of redemption. Joseph is embalmed and placed in a coffin in Egypt, marking the end of the Genesis narrative.
Okay, so that's on 1 foot, the entire Parsha. But now I want to ask you something. Who is this Tomeko Aituka, and why did I bring her to the Parsha of Vayechi? And you can answer it at the end of the class, okay?
Can I ask you quickly? He asked his brothers, but I thought Joseph was next to the youngest. So why, if he's living to 110, his brothers are still living? I'm missing the.
Correct. You will see it. Very good point. So he also tells them, if the brothers, later on you'll see, take me when I'm passing, take me to Canaan.
Yeah, but his brother.
His brothers died. Well, it happens in every family. It doesn't have to be in order. Yeah, you're right, though. You're right.
I don't get.
Right. Yeah, he probably died before some of his brothers, and he asked them to take them. So if it wasn't physically them, maybe their children took him back home. So yeah. All right. So think about Tomiko Aituka, and I will get back to you about her in a minute at the end of the portion.
And Eyal, he was taken back to Canaan after at the end of the exit, at the time of the Exodus.
Yes.
So that was much later.
Correct.
Unlike his dad.
That was taken way earlier after Shiva. Don't forget, it takes a while to bring the body from Egypt to Canaan. It's not a 45 minutes Eyal flight, you know. But also it's not 40 years at that point. So here are the 3 topics of the Parsha. The main topics of the Parsha: Jacob blesses his sons. You'll see a fascinating story there. Jacob's death and burial. And Joseph's reassurance to his brothers. You know, that reassurance that they are not going to hurt, that he's not going to hurt them upon being sold many, many years ago. Now, just to give you an example, a couple of years, how many years Jacob did not see his father when he was in Egypt? Does anyone know that? How many years he was separated from his father?
20-some.
22 years. He didn't see his father for 22 years. Correct. Okay, so just to give you that piece of information. Okay, so questions for discussion that will probably, most of them we'll cover. If not, it's for you to think about it. Why do some of Jacob's blessings seems more critical than others? The blessings to the children. Why some of them are more critical? It's an interesting thing. He wanted to really tell them the truth as it is. He tells them the good, the bad, and the ugly. He wants to correct them. And what was Jacob's last instruction before he passes? Where did he want to be buried? In Me'arat HaMachpelah in Hebron. That was his last instruction. Okay. Why was the mourning process? What was the mourning process, and who were the participants? So Jacob's father was so appreciated. Jacob was so appreciated, and his son was so remarkable that the Mitzrim, the Egyptians, also participated in the mourning process. The Gentiles who respected Jacob, of course, but more so of his son, participated in the mourning process. How do you interpret the quote? You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. This is one of the most emotional phrases in that Parsha, because he tells them, he tweaked the whole thing. You wanted to harm me, but it was planned by God to save you, to save the people, to save all the entire Middle East. Okay, philosophical questions. Again, if you just think of 1 or 2 of them, it will worth the time that we spend here. Richie, can you read the first one? What is the significant?
What is the significance of Jacob's burial request? How does his connection to the land of Israel reflect his identity as a patriarch of the Jewish people?
Okay, and more so, our right to live in the state of Israel or in Canaan today, in Israel today. Richie, read the second one, Joseph.
Joseph forgives his brothers for their betrayal. Why is forgiveness such a central theme in the Torah? How does Joseph's example teach us about overcoming hurt and moving forward?
Right. And we have a lot of stories of forgiveness in the Torah. Jacob himself and his brother Esau, right?
Yes.
We had to, there should have been there forgiveness. Well, we talked about it early. Beverly, can you read the next one? What makes a good leader?
What makes a good leader? Is leadership about power, responsibility, or both? How do we see leadership play out in the modern world? Family, work, community.
Okay, great.
I think that's so interesting to me about this parsha when we think about the end of the entire book of Bereshit, the end of all the chapters about Yosef. At the very end, he had more power than almost any living man in the ancient world, and yet it came at a great sacrifice. It came at the cost of his relationship with his brothers, with his father. So, and that in our tradition is not all about power. Our tradition is about, the unification of our people and helping one another and trying to live an ethical life. Whereas in the ancient world, it was all about power.
Right. Yes, well said. So, so in your opinion, ladies and gentlemen, how would you describe Jacob as a leader, a father, and a human being based on this parsha? And the next one is, how does Jacob's blessing shape the destiny of the tribes? And what does that tell us about the power of parental influence? As a side remark, it's the father who is making so much influence. Where was the mother here? One of them died, we know, but you see the father is the one who makes a big influence on the family. Okay, that's something. Yes, doctor.
Yes, good morning.
Good
Shabbat
morning.
Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I wanted to amplify and question the forgiveness part. Because if you take this into contrast with Isaac not forgiving Abraham, even though Abraham was following God's order, he, as I understood, he never forgave his father for attempting to sacrifice him.
But the text doesn't say that, actually. The text says they walked off together, and there's nothing written in the text about whether he forgave his father.
Okay.
But we have said in this group that Isaac never spoke to his father again.
It's probably a midrash, or it's probably
It doesn't say that in the text, though.
Right. Okay.
Eyal, I'd be curious about your thought about why Joseph never tried to contact his father during all those years.
There wasn't cell phones. There wasn't text.
He didn't pay his bill.
He didn't pay his bill. No, but look at the distance between Egypt and Canaan. It's 600 kilometers, 700 kilometers. I don't know if there were enough way of communicating at the time, or he thought he's dead, right? Did he know that he's still alive? He thought he was dead.
Well, Jacob thought Joseph was dead, but
Yes.
but Joseph didn't know about his father.
Are you asking that?
Father. But do you feel it was more than just distance, because messengers could have been sent?
You're right. Probably more than that. Anyone else can answer that? I'm happy to
Well,
hear.
Joseph knew that his father was disturbed and disappointed when he mentioned the dream in which even his parents were bowing down to him. And so maybe Joseph thought that his father was part of the arrangement, that his father had it with him as well. And perhaps he felt that his father washed his hands of him.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. Also, if he contacted his father, one thought I've heard is that he would have to tell his father what happened, and that would be sort of saying bad things about brothers. He didn't want to do that to his father, but on the other hand, the father was in mourning for all those years.
Wonderful interpretation. David, you wanted to add something.
Well, actually, Richie brings up a real interesting thing. So we know Jacob lives for about 17 years after he comes to Egypt. And in that time, Jacob never says, by the way, Joseph, how did you end up in Egypt? I mean, like, what happened? You made a wrong turn? And if he had contacted his father, he would have had to confront his brothers. And as Richie said, tell his father that they tried to kill me. And I think, according to what I've read, he really doesn't decide to forgive the brothers until Judah in the last Parsha makes his speech and keeps talking about father all those times. So I think even when Joseph sees him, he's got mixed feelings, and he hasn't resolved how he's going to do that until the middle of last Parsha.
Interesting.
May I, it's Gail, may I make a comment?
Of course.
So something very striking that's always been very striking to me is that although he was separated from his homeland and his family all those years, Joseph never forgot he was Jewish. And, to me, he's just such an example of how one can maintain one's identity even in a foreign land. No Jewish community, no Jewish connections whatsoever. Yet he talks about his God when he interprets Pharaoh's dreams. He tells Potiphar's wife, I cannot, give in to you because my God is telling me that's not okay. And he gives both of his sons Hebrew names. So yes. I think that's really striking.
Yeah.
Good point, Gail. And not just does he maintain his identity in a foreign land, he's almost head of the foreign land. So he doesn't even give it up when he more or less rules the country, which is even more remarkable.
Right. What was the senator from Connecticut? What was his name that went to services every Shabbat?
Lieberman.
Same. You remind me
Lieberman.
Yes, remind me of Joseph. Kept being a good Jew and devoted Jew. All right, these are the three personal reflective questions.
David has a comment.
Okay.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. In the previous Parsha and Miketz, we may have a clue as to why Joseph is feeling this way. It's chapter 41, verse 51. Joseph named his firstborn son Manasseh, for God has made me forget all the troubles I endured in my father's house. Maybe that's why he is able to forgive his brothers. He's grown and moved on and understood.
I'd also like to comment that Bereshit has a lot of forgiveness in it. The first is Abraham and Isaac. The second one is Jacob and Esau. And now we have Joseph and his brothers.
Okay.
So thank you for bringing that to my attention, Dr. Moore.
Okay. Thank you. I want to go to the philosophical question really fast, really quick. To the reflection question. Who wants to read the first one? Eyal, read the first one. What kind of legacy?
What kind of what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind for your family or community? Is it material, or is it something more intangible like values, teachings, or emotional connections?
Of course.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yes.
Right. What role does forgiveness play in your life, and how can you apply Joseph's example in your own relationships?
Yeah. And the last?
Reflect on a time when you had to take responsibility as a leader. What challenges did you face, and what did you learn?
Okay, so those are the three questions I want you to ask yourself at the end of the Parsha. Think about it based on the Parsha. All right, we're going to start.
Hey, I have a question. Your previous questions, are you suggesting that Jacob's qualities as a leader, or are you talking about Joseph's qualities as a
Both,
leader?
actually, both. Good question. Good question. Both. And I would like to focus a little bit more about Jacob at the end with that question. And because I wanted to say more things that I about him myself. Yeah. Any other question? Any comments till that point? Anything that you want to say till that point? Okay. Can you tell me something about Hifri? I just want to meet you. Can you tell me who are you, please?
Yeah, good Shabbos. How are you, Jeffrey? Just my second time joining the Parsha online. I'm happy to be here. I'm a member of Bethel for maybe 2.5 years, something like that. My family. So that's my name.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. Yeah. All right. So we're going to start now to read the Parsha. And David, do you want to do the first reader?
Sure.
Okay.
Jacob lived 17 years in the land of Egypt, so that the span of Jacob's life came to 147 years. And when the time approached for Israel to die, he summoned his son Joseph and said to him, "Do me this favor. Place your hand under my thigh as a pledge of your steadfast loyalty. Please do not bury me in Egypt. When I lie down with my fathers, take me up from Egypt and bury me in their burial place." He replied, "I will do as you have spoken." And he said, "Swear to me." And he swore to him. Then Israel bowed at the head of the bed.
Okay. Okay. So this is an interesting scenario. A lot of things happening here. If you need to put it in order, if you have to make a movie out of that, what's happening here? What stands out? What is the symbol of putting the hands under the thigh? What's that symbol?
We saw that earlier in the Torah.
Yeah, I liked your comment, David. I remember your comment from the notes about the testicles.
Well, that's what it was, but it's
the ultimate trust.
And it's an oath as well.
What is it?
For an oath.
Okay. Okay.
It's a sign of an oath.
Okay. It's a biblical. It's during the biblical time. We don't see today the rabbis are doing such a thing or clergy doing such a thing today, right? Okay, Judy.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they do, but
I don't think so.
I don't know. But I'm wondering. That is the ultimate. It's a vulnerable spot, and it's where you need to trust somebody. So maybe that's figuratively rather than literally, or the other way around. My question is, why does his name go back and forth? Why is it not consistent? Either Jacob or Israel. I don't understand that.
So there's a commentary about that here. Okay, who wants to read that? Just a second. Okay. You find that on verse number 7 here. Joseph was just a second. I lose it there. Sometimes that is following the oath ceremony. Just a second. Yeah. Look at verse 2. Out of respect for the office that Joseph respected. No. Can someone look? I lost the phrase. Anyone can read the translation for 2?
What page are you on?
294.
Oh,
Joseph has come to see you?
Yeah. All right. Let's pass on that. I saw it in one commentary and I just lost it now. Judy, if you find it before, let us know. Otherwise, let's move on.
Eyal, is it on 294, 2 below the line? Is that?
Yeah.
One should never enter the room of a sick or elderly person unannounced, lest they be embarrassed, indisposed, or not fit to receive visitors. That's for 2.
No, that's not it. There was a reason why the name is changing to remind us that Jacob named Israel, and they want to remind the past and the present again. But
again, what page are we on?
294.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Again.
294.
What page?
294. Yeah. Gail, do you have an interpretation for that? Why the name?
You mean why there's
the name Israel and Jacob?
I do not. I've wondered about that.
Okay.
And I don't know that it can be rationalized, because in a situation where you think his name would be Israel, it's Yaakov. And Jacob said to Joseph, El Shaddai appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan, and he blessed me, and blah, blah. You would think then it would be Israel, when the essence is he's getting the blessing and becoming the father of this nation. So I just think it's
295, number 8.
And Merle, I've heard what you just said is also what I've heard as well, that I heard it mentioned that this was looked at to see when he was called Israel and when he was called Jacob. Are there certain is there in the text, does it reflect certain quality in that particular passage versus another particular passage? And what I heard is that there was, when that was looked at, there was no consistency in trying to understand that way.
So let me add one suggestion. I think when the Torah was finally edited, if you believe that approach, you had different authors that were putting stories together. And that may explain the different names for God and here different names for Jacob.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thomas Friedman, who wrote the Bible, not me.
Eileen has her hand up.
295, number 8, it explains the name change.
Okay, read it out loud.
This name rather than Israel, this name rather than Jacob is used hereafter until the end of the chapter to reflect the change of name on which this episode depends. Furthermore, the name Israel is more appropriate because the narrative concludes with tribal history.
Okay, so that's supports what we said earlier. Very good. Okay, thank you, Eileen. Not only that you're helping me with the PowerPoint, you give the interpretation. Yes, Meryl.
Just a quick point. I know that there's so much in every Parsha, particularly this one, but I just want to point out that to me, the first time that I really thought about this Parsha concerns the 12 tribes. So I think when we say Yaakov blessed the sons, it's really crucial that he also blessed Joseph's 2 sons. And that's when 2 of the tribes became Joseph's 2 sons, which was really an anomaly. So for much of my life, I thought the 12 tribes were Yaakov's sons. No. 2 of the 12 tribes are his grandsons. So I think that blessing of Ephraim and Manasseh is particularly interesting for our peoplehood.
And it's interesting because you don't see too many scenarios when the father in the Bible blesses the grandchildren. This is a very unique scenario here. And why Manasseh, if you just brought it up, why Manasseh and Ephraim, why does he call the grandchildren? Does anyone have an interpretation? Why does he call the grandchildren before he calls his own children? why do you think that wouldn't it be natural to call first your children and then the grandchildren?
Could this be another example of favoring Joseph, which, he did his whole life?
But also maybe the future. The future is in that generation, Lador Vador, and that these two, like their father, are the prototype for how a Jew lives in Galut, in exile.
Fantastic. That's exactly what I was hoping to hear. So Jacob knew that our people will live in different diasporas, okay? But he took these two children as an example that even the son of the person who leads, they're from a royal family, they're from a royal family. They could have lived and have luxurious life without remembering being Jew, but they kept their life Jewish. They weren't influenced by this different societies, and they were good examples, and that's why he calls them first. That's the way I look at it.
And Merle, the question that you asked is really interesting about the tribes, the 12 tribes. So it's almost like this interesting way to look at it, because it can be looked at it two ways. One is that the 12 tribes are indeed the 12 sons. They are the 12 tribes. And on the priestly, the stones on the priestly garment, those 12 stones are the 12 tribes, are the 12 sons. So it's a little tricky, because then when they go into Canaan and inherit the land, then there's still 12, but it's not the 12 sons, as you said. It's the extra son. Well, it's the extra son because of the two. So, and Levites have no land. So now it ends up to 12 portions of land, because the Levites know, but the extra, because of the two grandsons, the extra grandson, in a way, has land. So it ends up being 12 because of the extra grandson and not the Levites. But
and then two of them rich thanks, but I'm two of them combined, Don and somebody else combined, I think, to make it 12. But
I have the map if you want to see the map.
No, I think it's 12 without that, because Joseph would be 1, but the grandsons would be 2. So that's an extra 1.
And then you get
make up for the extra 1. There's no Levites, so that's
right.
That's -1.
Is there still a sister at this stage?
Well, Dina does not get blessed. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, women weren't considered to be a tribe at the time of that. And how does Jacob call Ephraim and Manasseh? He tells them that those are considered to be now my sons, as Reuben and Shimon. Okay, Reuben and Shimon and Ephraim and Manasseh are like equal sons to me. Later on, he will say. Okay, so the father goes to the day school, picks up the two children or from the summer camp, and he says, "Let's go to see the grandfather." Okay, right away. That's a very interesting scenario. Who wants to continue to read wherever we left off?
Where do we leave off?
Let's go to verse 3. David, read verse 3. And Jacob said to Joseph.
And Jacob said to Joseph, El Shaddai appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan. And he blessed me, and he said to me, I will make you fertile and numerous, making of you a community of peoples. And I will assign this land to your offspring to come for an everlasting possession. Now, your two sons who were born to you in the land of Egypt, before I came to you in Egypt, shall be mine. Ephraim and Manasseh shall be mine no less than Reuben and Shimon. But progeny born to you after them shall be yours. They shall be recorded instead of their brothers in their inheritance.
Okay, great. So this is the proof that there are children. It's interesting that he said it, but he didn't know the grandchildren before he came down, right? How did he find about their qualities? And how did he realize how devoted they are?
Well, he'd been in Egypt for 17 years before he says this. So he was with them for 17 years. And it's interesting, after 17 years, Joseph doesn't have, or it's not recorded that he has any more kids, unlike Abraham or somebody else.
Uh-huh.
So, and we know that all the other brothers had kids and grandkids. I mean, and they were much older than Joseph in the first place. But you're right. All of a sudden, he ignores all his other grandchildren and favors these two.
I was going to say that too, David. This is just a continuation of his favoritism to Joseph. He's sharing that feeling with his grandsons. Maybe that's another opportunity for his other grandsons to start another generation of rivalry.
Interesting.
Oh, I have a question. It also mentions just in the next sentence that his wife, Rachel, died. And like, so what's the connection or the relevance to, it sounds like because his wife died that he's going to give the land to these two grandsons?
I think the connection is that the patriarchs, most of the family was buried in Hebron, in the Merak, in the cave of Machpelah. And what happened to Rachel, actually, she died on the way. So he had to bury her, but he didn't bury her at Hebron. He had to bury her in Bethlehem. That's the only connection that I see. If someone wants to add to that, please do.
Well,
I think.
Maybe not a strong argument, but that's
Why
what I
couldn't she be transported later on than like Joseph was?
A good question.
it's interesting that the favorite sons so much in this is always like maybe the youngest or something, but in history, it's the eldest that always gets the inheritance. And so it changes. It was never, if you have 10 sons, and the inheritance always goes to the eldest. And here it's very different. There's no, it doesn't have to. It can go to whomever. So that's interesting to me.
But it's an anomaly. Even then, that was definitely the tradition. So it was an anomaly throughout Bereshit that due to character flaws and circumstances, the younger got it. But that was an anomaly because the elder was supposed to get it.
But does it hold, like, in other words, could the eldest said, this is, no, I mean, like, I hate to say it, like if you went to a Bet Din or some court, would that, I don't think it was at that time, but would the oldest have a case of being eldest? I mean,
that's the whole, Esau, Jacob and Esau story.
Beverly, it might come before you in court, so you would have to decide.
Right.
Judy, were you asking about Rachel's burial? Yeah, so she was buried, as I understand it, by the roadside. So she never, that's where she still is to this day.
Right. Yeah. That's what I understand too. But I was surprised because she was a matriarch, why she wasn't included in like being moved even well after her death.
Good question.
But the marker would probably be, impermanent. So even if they put a little stake or a stone or something, how could that be found and how could that survive?
Yeah. So Beverly asked about Reuben. Why didn't Reuben, the first son, will be the person who will take over? What was the problem later on with Reuben? You read this Parsha many times. Why wasn't he so much respected by his father? Does anyone?
Because he made love to the father's girlfriend.
To Bila.
Concubine.
Concubine, else.
Yes.
But also he was a hothead. He was very impetuous. And the deal that, the offer that he made to Yaakov, he offered his kids, if I can't bring Benjamin back, you can kill both of my kids. I mean, and he was a hothead and he was impetuous. It was his idea, which Yaakov wouldn't know, but his idea to throw Joseph in the pit. So I think he was seen as like ADHD by his siblings and his father. They just couldn't rely on him to be reasonable.
Actually, Merle, I don't think it was his idea to throw Jacob in the pit. It was his idea to not kill Jacob in the pit. He said to his brother, "Don't kill him."
He planned to come back and get him out of the pit. That was, and when he came back until the pit was empty, that extremely upsetting.
Wow, so many good ideas coming today here.
Gail and David have had their hands up forever.
Okay, go ahead. Gail, you wanted to say something?
Yes. So, well, I don't know. Am I jumping ahead? I was looking at what's coming up next. But we've sort of touched on it about preferring the younger to the older. I'm reading this starting in verse 8. Noticing Joseph's sons, Israel asked, "Who are these?" And Joseph said, "They're my sons. Bring them up to me that I may bless them." Now Israel's eyes were dim with age; he could not see. This is like replaying what happened with Jacob and Esau and Isaac. Isaac, the question was, could he see? How did he know which was which? And it's so interesting because in this situation, it's like Jacob is maybe reliving that. Certainly there are a lot of parallels in the words, but Jacob here comes up with a different solution. He crosses his hands, as you know, to favor the younger one with his right hand, but he gives them the same blessing together. He doesn't give them two separate blessings, and he blesses them in the plural. I think it's such an amazing reframing of the earlier story, the generation before.
Okay. Thank you, Gail. And David, what do you want to say?
In verse 3, where it says, Jacob said to Joseph, El Shaddai appeared to me. Hashem is not Adonai or Elohim, but his personal name, El Shaddai, that he said to Abraham. So here he's telling Joseph something is Hashem's personal name. I think it's amazing that there is a name change in the narrative.
There are different names for God, right? Different names. Yes, David?
So Gail, I'm glad you brought that up. So Jacob doesn't summon the grandchildren. He summons Joseph. And Joseph, on his own, decides to bring his grandchildren, which is interesting. So, Joseph was certainly putting his kids before all the other grandkids.
And it's so interesting that Yaakov, that Israel says, "Who are these?" Just like Isaac said, "Who are you?" When
love it, Gail.
Jacob came disguised. I mean, these are not coincidental.
No, it's so wonderful that you pointed that out. And once again, it underscores the brilliance of the writer, especially of Bereshit. It's such fine, even if it were just fiction, it's so well constructed.
Right.
I can say that maybe because why, actually I was reading a rabbinical commentary the other day about how grandparents has a lot of love for the grandchildren, even better than their own sons. And I can see right here, like the question about why Jacob had a lot of preference for Joseph over the other brothers, and even the sister Dinah. What I can figure it out that definitely Jacob fought for Rachel for 7 years. In his mind was not ever fighting for Leah or even the servants Bilhah. When he was doing the blessings to all the children, and clearly he explained that the firstborn privilege was removed from Reuben because he had made love with Bilhah, one of the servants. But when he sees Joseph, the firstborn in his mind, because was between Jacob and Rachel, and for him, Joseph was the firstborn because Rachel was basically the love of Joseph, and Benjamin was the second child. But when he sees Joseph with the other two children, Ephraim and Manasseh, Manasseh meaning causing to forget, and Ephraim meaning fructify. he sees like that kind of love. This is my descendant. This is the one that will continue the firstborn privilege through Joseph and taking out from his tithe, meaning the Serah, like the seed that will produce. And I think this is a beautiful story because even today, when we bless our children, we do we bless our children. We bless how Hashem bless us Ephraim and Menashe, rather than
Reuben and Shimon.
Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? So even that influence today, we can still do. No, we don't bless under our patriarchs like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but we do. Hashem bless you as Ephraim and Menashe. So it's really, really beautiful. And I think Jacob, Israel is seeing, well, Menashe is the firstborn, but it's caused me to forget. But Joseph is the future to be fructified. So this is, I think, something personal, like we going through a lot of struggles in life. Okay, this is one part of my life, but there is another option. This is here, putting behind, and this is moving forward. So I love this story.
I love that you said that he was the firstborn, Rachel. So that I never thought about like that. And that he is the firstborn, but of that union.
Okay. So many degrees behind you. What are the degrees behind you, Jeffrey?
I was looking at this too.
Oh, sorry. I'm a behavior analyst and clinician in behavior analysis. So basically, I work with children with autism spectrum disorder to provide a positive behavior change and creating meaningful lives.
So you understand Joseph and Jacob better now. With your
I'm a real fan of Torah, so I like to read a lot in my free time. So
okay. Okay, wonderful. Let's continue a little bit. Let's continue. Dr. Liz, would you like to read verse 8? If not, we can. You're muted. You're muted. Okay.
I have the Herod's thing. So what chapter and
all right. We're on page 295, but let's do David read now. Page 295, verse 8. But David, could you continue?
Sure.
Okay.
Verse 8. Noticing Joseph's sons, Israel asked, "Who are these?" And Joseph said to his father, "They are my sons, whom God has given me here. Bring them up to me," he said, "that I may bless them." Now Israel's eyes were dim with age, he could not see. So Joseph brought them close to him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, "I have never expected to see you again, and here God has let me see your children as well."
Okay, this is great. Does it remind you anything here of past portions that we learned?
Yeah.
Another scenario we learned? Does it remind you something else?
What Gail said.
Yes.
Yeah. When, the deception of Rachel and Yaakov getting the Esau's blessing.
Okay. And I want to ask you something based on that. Why does it say in the Hebrew, I will translate, he will kiss them and he will hug them? Why does it say the them twice? In Hebrew, it says lahem and lahem. It couldn't say, and he would kiss and hug them. Why does it say twice lahem? I have like an issue with that. And Israel said, do you see what I'm talking about on verse 10? Do you think there is any significance in that? He kissed them and embraced them twice. In English, you can say the them once. In Hebrew, too.
Doesn't this refer back to the Jacob and Esau switching of inheritance?
Yes, can be, yeah.
Also, with Jacob, we saw first time Rachel cried and kissed her too. So that was the connection might be there too.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think kissing and embracing are different.
So that's why the them and them.
I think so.
I see.
To
Okay.
emphasize that each of these actions happened.
Okay. Okay. And so, okay. And each one of them is special. That's why it says probably them. Okay. Judy, why don't you do 12, verse 12?
Joseph then removed them from his knees and bowed low with his face to the ground. Joseph took the two of them, Ephraim with his right hand to Israel's left, and Manasseh with his left hand to Israel's right, and brought them close to him. But Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on Ephraim's head, though he was the younger, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, thus crossing his hands, although Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph, saying, "The God in whose ways my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who has been my shepherd from my birth to this day, the angel who has redeemed me from all harm, bless the lads. In them may my name be recalled, and the names of my fathers, Abraham and Isaac, and may they be teeming multitudes upon the earth."
Okay. So what's the issue with the hands, and why is it brought here? Does it bring any memories from before? Is it to start trouble? Why was it Joseph correcting it right away? Why did he have to be angry? Is my point clear, or is my question clear to you with that issue of the different sides, the different blessing?
Should we read further to understand that part?
Yeah, I mean, when you read further, he questions that, and
go ahead.
Yeah, and Jacob explains why he did it that way.
And can you read it? Yeah.
Want me to read starting on 17?
Yeah.
When Joseph saw that his father was placing his right hand on Ephraim's head, he thought it was wrong. So he took hold of his father's hand to move it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's. "Not so, father," Joseph said to his father, "for the other is the firstborn. Place your right hand on his head." But his father objected, saying, "I know, my son, I know. He too shall become a people, and he too shall be great. Yet his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his offspring shall be plentiful enough for nations." So he blessed them that day, saying, "By you shall Israel invoke blessings, saying, God make you like Ephraim and Manasseh." Thus he put Ephraim before Manasseh.
Okay. Anyone has any issue here or any comments here? No.
Question. I do have a question though. Are we assuming that the left side is weaker than the right side, although the left side is closer to the heart?
Good question. What do you think, ladies and gentlemen?
In ancient cultures, left-handedness was associated with evilness, and in different languages, Romance languages, like in Italian, left is sinistra, which sounds like sinister. So, I guess it was just, like midrash or a wives' tale, Baba Maisa, but, the right was considered the better, the stronger, and the correct of the two.
What is it? A big deal? The hands? I mean, was it such an important thing for
Must have been.
Joseph? Yeah. Yeah. Does it remind of the past? I'm troubled by that phrase somehow. Stuart, where are you coming from?
I am coming from a bedroom, and I've been quarantined with COVID all week.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
But I'm doing fine.
Good.
And I wouldn't miss Torah class with you, Dr. Bohr.
Thank you.
So I have a question. What is the recurrent theme of the youngest being superseding the oldest so many times in the Torah? Is that a message we should take away from that? What is your thoughts on that?
Great question. Is that a message that we should take away? That's a very good question. Yeah. Anyone wants to respond to that?
Well, even in the comments, it says, this is a way of saying that eminence is a function of individual character rather than birth order.
Merit.
Maybe it's a lesson that we shouldn't favorite our youngest son.
Who was the mother?
Osnat. The mother was Osnat, and he married their. I believe that if Joseph went to a shadchan, okay, in Egypt, you could find any woman he wanted to, and there would be a big line. Osnat is considered to be a very humble, low-key person, the nicest person, and she brought him 2 sons.
And she was Jewish.
If we can go back to Stuart's question, Stuart, I think this is the Torah's continuing theme that the weak will inherit over the powerful, that is assuming powerful, and that just because you're the firstborn doesn't mean you get it. So that's right. Over and over and over again, we see the younger child being more powerful. And so if you remember, Joseph has this dream where he tells his brothers, I'm going to be more powerful than you. And it really does irritate the brothers. But here we see this again. And we do see God saying to both of them, hey, I'm going to do right by the firstborn. Don't get me wrong. But it's the secondborn that we're going to have the better or the more power.
But it's never, if you have 5 kids, it's never the third born. So it's always, there is that order. So the middle kids, they lose.
There's all these different theses on middle kids. I've got one, and he's the peacemaker.
So, I mean,
Once again, I think it's a comment that our religion and traditions do not idolize power, but rather, as Patty said, character and merit, as opposed to position and power.
Gail?
Yeah, it's a great question. But if you look at the blessing to Reuven on page 299, so chapter 49, verse 3, Reuven, you are my firstborn, my might and first fruit of my vigor, exceeding in rank and exceeding in honor. That's very complimentary, right? But look, I mean, following up on what Merle just said about character, but, you know, as she said, he's very unstable. You shall excel no longer. And, you know, he brings up that he had sexual relations with
Bilhah.
Thank you. So, you know, position in the family in birth order doesn't entitle you. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily a good person. It's very complicated. You know, it really is. Very interesting. You want to read a good book, Francine Klagsbrun, Klagsbrun. I forgot the name of it, but she wrote a book about sibling relationships, and it's fascinating. And there's a whole chapter on birth order. A lot of studies have been done on that. It's really interesting. I'll try and find it.
Thanks, Gil.
Thank you, Gil. And also, Reuven is a good example where the father tells him things as they are. And why does he do it? To change him for the future, because Jacob won't be there someday. But he wants to give him the values, the tools, and the direction that he should embark on when Jacob is gone. Okay? And that's why he is giving that advice, the good and the bad, to the children. And also, commentary said that he also tells secrets to the sons that he couldn't tell them earlier, things that couldn't be publicly said to them. That's from commentary. It's 5 after 5. It's 5 after 10. I wanted to ask you, do you want to see a couple of things that I was impressed from Israel this week? I'm in Israel now. Yes. Unless anyone wants to say something. Any comments, anything that you want to say? If you want to go back to the philosophical of personal questions, I can tell you about legacy. I'm very comfortable for what I did at Bethel with my legacy. I believe that opening the infant toddler 20 years ago is a good future for the legacy of Bethel. Putting adult education program, that's the legacy for the future of Bethel. Of course, Gail Allen started it, but I took it from there. So I feel good about the legacy of my job, but I want you to think about your legacy as people who are parents or in your profession or in your careers, what legacy you leave to your future people. I don't want to hear any compliments. I don't want to hear that. I just want to hear about yourself. If you want to add to that, it would be great. I know that Bob Lees, his legacy was, one of his legacies, he trained my daughter to become, I think she is good, right, Bob? Not as you, but right? Anyhow, but that was your legacy. If you can share legacies with me, one or two, I'll be so happy for. I'll show you a couple of impressions.
Well, sometimes just as the child becomes greater than the parent, the student becomes better than the teacher.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Thank you.
Sometimes leaving a legacy, you have to sometimes jump over your children. My children are all Jewish. The kids are bar mitzvah, but they've sort of, have become a little lax. And so I go to the grandchildren and sometimes I get flack for it and remind them who they are, what they are, and explain to them when they're the right age, how important, whether, and I use this loosely and I don't mean it this way. I said, I don't care if you don't go to synagogue, and they all live away. You have to understand Albuquerque, it doesn't matter. I don't care if you don't go to synagogue on Yom Kippur. I don't care if you stay home and eat a ham sandwich. Of course I do care. Don't misunderstand me. You go to school. That is the most egregious thing, or you do not, because you do not respect yourself as a Jew, and then you cannot have anybody else. And my daughter once said, well, they're old enough to make a decision. I go, no, they have to know who they are, where they came from. And sometimes, and my kids are okay with it, but sometimes you have to overstep a boundary because it is important to you. And it's not always comfortable. I overstep boundaries sometimes and go directly to my grandkids and talk about things that, they're happy.
Kids at 11.
I can't. Oh, that was Gail.
Eyal?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that as we get older, our relationships change with our children. We're not so much, we're always going to be parents, but we can talk with them differently. We have maybe more shared experiences. So I think also when we get closer to our mortality, there are things you just want to share, you want to say. So I'm feeling like we're watching our patriarchs and our ancestors, and they don't change, but their relationships change. And I think that's just human nature. And it's wonderful when you can have that kind of relationship and can communicate in such a way.
I think, Bev, I don't know how old your grandchildren are, but I think we have to accept the fact that when, our kids, our grandchildren are at an age when they're going to sports things, and my children aren't as interested in, maybe teaching them what's in Judaism, but they do go to Hebrew school. And I think that's a great thing because they come home and, with their menorahs that they made in school, and come on, Mom, we've got to light this. And hopefully it's instilling some stuff in them. And then they'll come around, as Judy's saying, when they get older, they'll come around.
Yeah. They do, but I don't want them to forget. And when my granddaughter went to college, the ones that, hey, there's Hillel. go, I tell them, even if you're just going to get a good meal, you have to
Be affiliated.
You have to, right. And sometimes, the parents will say they know what to do. I mean, no, they wouldn't. We have good relationships with them, and I want them to know how I feel. And I don't have a problem, even if it's sometimes, I think you have to be able to say what you need and not to forget about it. I don't know.
A big piece of that still is lack of education and insufficient education. And what I do is when the kids are of a certain age, I send them books, like something basic about Israel, something like a basic, if they have a question, like Talushkin's books, you have a question about something, it's a quick reference because they don't know enough. So even if they have the tradition in the house, they have to know more. Today they have to know
books but I will send them books like Snow in August about a little Jewish, because they're not going, what you're sending them, my grandkids probably wouldn't read. But if I sent them Snow in August or something like that, or what's the other one, Chaim Potak's books, about the baseball players, that they'll read and then they'll get that. So you have to know where you're going. You have to know.
Merle, it's funny you should mention Talushkin's book, because I had a question once a couple of years ago, and I asked Richie, and he said, you should get this book. You turn to any page and you'll learn anything, because each chapter is maybe a page and a half.
I know, it's so easy.
It's such an awesome resource.
Tell me, I don't know what you're talking about. It's
Rabbi Joseph Talushkin. He's written more than one. I can't remember the names now. I don't even know if I brought them to Boca, but I had all of his books, and they're just simple references. Yeah. I think one is maybe the holidays, one might be Tanakh, one might be, I think the first one was everything about being Jewish, but they're wonderful. Rabbi Joseph Talushkin.
Thank you. I will get one.
How do you spell that?
Yeah, it's called Jewish Literacy. It was great.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Let me show you.
Patty, I'll send it to you.
Thanks, Judy.
Let me show you a couple of pictures from Tel Aviv, just and do it in a minute. Okay, it's two purposes, just to show you and tell you that when I'm in Tel Aviv, I don't feel that Israel is in a war. Okay, somehow it feels like I didn't hear the sirens while I was here, and when I go to Tel Aviv, I see a pretty lively city, and I will show it to you in a couple of pictures. But anyhow, this is in the Shuk HaCarmel in Tel Aviv. What does anyone know? What is Pitzuchei Amrani? Can you lift it up a little bit? Pitzuchei Amrani.
Some kind of pizza.
Is it pizza?
No, those are
peppers. Pepper.
No. A little closer to that. Sunflower seeds, peanuts, almonds, Pitzuchei Amrani. Okay, and look at the someone put some pictures. Okay, go to the next one, please.
Is that graffiti?
Graffiti, yes, under his door. It's in the shuk. Don't forget. Extra credit. Who can read this word? Amegul galuach. Bakarmel. What is that? It's anyone heard of a malawa? Malawach? Okay, so it's like things that are made usually from a Sephardic kitchen. Oh. And look at the phrase below. It's in the shuk. Look in the phrase below. You should love your neighbor as you like yourself. So it's not only that it's a business, but it's a message. It's in the shuk. Graffiti is underneath. Next one, really quick. Okay, that's something very interesting. I was Dr. Liz is here, but is Stuart still there?
Optometrist.
Okay,
I'm here.
This optometrist. This is a doctor who started this group, Grossbrad, in 1924. He's an eye doctor, and you look at the top, very top, it says optometrist. Meryl, you can bring your husband to show him how things are in Israel. It's in Hebrew, and you see the glasses in the middle. In Tel Aviv, in the middle, just
That's great.
if you as an American went there, how would you know it's a doctor, an eye doctor? You won't know. Okay. Next.
That's awesome.
Okay, this is my favorite, one of the favorite. Can someone tell me, well, tavlinim on the right, cafe means spices and coffee powders. But on the left, it's interesting. If you want to get high, you buy tzmachim mistihim. You see tzmachim mistihim. Okay, okay. So
what does that mean?
You can get like special herbal teas that helps you to heal from different diseases and so forth.
So it's not
And
like
it's kosher.
it's not like a
It's
head
kosher.
shop. It's not pot.
It's not pot. No. It wasn't. Yeah. Next one. It's just this week. Okay.
Do
This
they
is
have them
reminds
there,
me.
Eyal, by the way? Is marijuana legal?
Yes. And I cannot stand it because it smells all over. You
Wow.
walk in the streets. So this is where when I was bar mitzvahed, my mother bought the fabric. And that in that shop, it's still there. I'm talking about 55 years ago. And below that, next picture, it's Badei Reuven. Next, it's a section that you only buy fabrics in the shuk. Okay? So if you want to buy fabric, you go to those stores. And I remember the one that my mother went when I was bar mitzvah. Next is
what is bidet?
Bidet is fabric, is
material
to make dress.
So Reuven is the name?
The name of the owner of the shop. Yes. Now, what you see here is an interesting stuff. A photo on the right side. You see an old building. What do you see here? It's
Beit Knesset.
It's a shul. It's not Bethel or Baltimore. It's a shul. Okay. And next to it, on the left, you see a 5-story modern new building attached to the shul. Why? Because you cannot destroy a shul. You cannot make a building on a shul, but you can next to it, you can build.
Interesting.
Okay, next.
In the States, then some of the shuls are now churches. Is that?
Unfortunately, that's sad.
That's not halachic, is it?
Well, if it's no longer a shul, you can sell it to anything you want to. You cannot. You can make it a shul. I don't know if the opposite word. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. You can do it,
but you can sell it.
Yes. Now, what you see, this is an old building in Tel Aviv. My goodness, they're all being restored, renovated. It's 120 years. It's fascinating what you see there in Tel Aviv. That's near the shuk. And the next one is here. You see the renovation on the left, okay, and they started the process. And the right is the original building in Tel Aviv. Okay, next. Okay, that's another shul. Okay, and it says eshtibul. You see that there on the right? Eshtibul, the Yiddish word for a shul. And what time is the Shachrit service? At 8:15 in the morning. Of course, it was during Hanukkah, so you see the menorah in front. And again, it's not Bethel, small. Next. Okay, the old building that they just renovated. It's important in Tel Aviv. I love those buildings. And the next. Okay. Now what you see here, restaurants in Tel Aviv now. It's a war, right? I went at 9:30 at night to get reservations. I couldn't get a table. 9:30 on Thursday night. This is Thursday night, okay? Look at the pictures. Restaurants, young, full, happy. You don't know that there is a war based on what you see if you walk in Tel Aviv. Look how many people. Next one. Again, restaurants. This is late at night, very late. And next one, again, restaurants. On most of the places, people sit outdoors. The weather is wonderful. Next. Okay, still restaurants and a lot of lights. Okay. This is the light rail in Tel Aviv. It was planned 20 years ago. It was supposed to end at 2019. They still work on that. And they work at night there. The noise is humongous. Those are the houses in the middle of the streets. You hear noise. Light rail will take another few years to complete. And you see the workers with machinery. You can sleep at night where it is there in Tel Aviv, in the middle of Tel Aviv. I don't complain. I just show you fake pictures, okay? This is me. I'm running from Ramat Aviv to Jaffa and back, and I was proud because you see Frederick Marathon there on my show. Next one. And this, I want to tell you something about that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most impressive part of the trip now. When you're 70, all public transportation is free. Train, buses, and I'm on a bus here. That's the first time that I'm on a bus in many years. And it's very, very fast. It's high tech. You know where the bus comes. When you get to your destination, it's beautiful. Okay, next. Okay, on the bus, 3 languages, Arabic, Hebrew, and English. So don't say that Israel is an apartheid country. Everyone can find his place, whether you're a Jew, Gentile, Christian, or Arab, it's all in different languages. Okay, this is the center where the Kikar, Dizengoff, when you see pictures and items from the Chatufim, for the hostages, and photos of those people in the center of Tel Aviv. This picture was taken from the bus. Last, next. Is that it?
How long are you for? How long will you be in Israel?
I'm coming back on Monday. I'm going to be back in America. Yeah. Yes.